Hey everybody, welcome to What the Flick. Meredith, Bibbs, Alonso. We're talking about Marvel's Runaways on Hulu. The first 3 episodes dropped about a week ago. Reunion, Rewind, and Destiny. I didn't remember until about halfway through the first episode that I'd actually read these comics.
Yeah, this was actually one of the earliest projects that Marvel Studios announced that they were working on. This is going to be a movie. Back when they were working on developing like Ant-Man and Iron Man, and it kept getting pushed back and it kept getting pushed back. And finally, I guess they said, screw it, let's do it as a TV series. And I think that was honestly probably the smartest move they could make. If you're familiar with the work of Brian K. Vaughan, he's who helped create the series. I forget the name of the artist who worked on it as well. Someone's going to correct me and be mad. But Brian K. Vaughan wrote the original series. He created a lot of the characters, and he is a master of serialized storytelling. He's great cliffhangers, great twists, and yeah, I think this is probably the best format for Runaways.
Which is interesting because the first couple issues of Runaways actually go very fast. What we're seeing in the TV show is a protracted, a little bit dragged out version, especially where the parents are concerned. But I'm okay with that because I'm really digging these parents. I really don't want some of them to end up evil, but man, James Marsters as as Victor. Those Buffy feels are back.
I mean, yeah, what I find interesting is that I can't imagine how you would do this in a movie just in terms of here are your, 7 characters and their parents. That's a lot of exposition and introduction and origin and all that stuff.
You'd have to cram it all into like the first 15 minutes, get them actually run away by like 30 minutes in, then you have like a half hour, 45 minutes of action, and then you got to wrap it all up. I think one of the most beautiful things about Runaways is the characters. They're very distinct. I think they play off of a lot of familiar archetypes. We see in a lot of teen literature, teen television, but they're a little deeper than that, and I'm really liking the cast that they've assembled for the show.
Yeah, and I mean, a few faces I recognize. Ariella Bearer from, she had a great sort of arc as the goth best friend on Netflix's One Day at a Time. The handsome British gentleman,
You can do it.
Anyway, that guy, the young guy, he was in White Frog. Greg Selkin. And then some folks I've never seen before. But yeah, they're funny and they're interesting and they have good chemistry just from jump. And we are having to sort of take in because it's not even just that there's all these characters, they're all so different and they all bring this certain thing to the table. And the idea that you could devote the first 2 episodes of a show to like the same 24-hour period basically as seen through a different pair of eyes, you're asking a lot of your audience's patience, but I think there is so much to learn and so many interesting people to get to know that it works.
Well, because the first episode we see it's entirely from the perspective of, almost entirely from the perspective of the teens.
Yeah.
And then we learn, it ends with this great cliffhanger where they see their parents basically ritualistically sacrificing someone.
Right.
And then the next episode is what were the parents doing that day? And we still, there's still a lot I've read the comics, but they've changing little things here or there, so I'm not entirely sure how closely they're going to adhere to some of the specifics, but regardless, we're learning a lot more about the parents than I think we did even in the comics, and it's such a great cast of characters. And this is a huge ensemble cast, and they all get interesting plots. They are all, splendidly acting all of these interesting character dynamics where we find out people are in love who shouldn't be, or people who actually feel really guilty about everything that they're doing and struggle with the morality of what looks really cut and dry. And I like that.
Yeah, and from a supervillain point of view, it's like, what's the deal with this church?
Yeah.
What do the villains even want? We don't even know yet.
Yeah.
We know they want to build a school in like South Central or something, but to what end?
Yeah, and we know there's a creepy, almost dead, rotting, living corpse over in the Church of not Scientology.
Right.
And what ultimately is going to be there, and that's what I'm wondering if what they're going to do with the main villain, if they're going to change that, make it more of an alien life form versus a demonic presence. And just to go back on what you said, one of the favorite things I love about any adaptation from book to film or comics to film or television is take the overall structure. Give me the basic plot points and then fill it in which works best for TV. Because some of the changes that they're making, at least in these 3 episodes, I'm really digging. Like, okay, first off, Molly's parents are out of the picture. In the comics, her parents are alive. But I feel like at this point, if we had them we have enough. And I think it really, I like how it drives Molly and Gert together to give them that upbringing and that solid foundation, because eventually they are going to really need each other for some of the things that could or cannot happen based on the books. And I'm also just in love with the teens' dynamics, like just how they are with each other. They're not all friends from in this current time. They were friends when they were younger, but now they've grown up, they're in high school, they've grown apart, and looking at those little nuances of like, oh, I'm the cool kid, I don't hang out with you, or oh, she's so beautiful, but she's so weird. It reminds me of all the best YA that I read and watch.
Oh, I'm getting a solid Degrassi vibe here in the best way.
And if you look at it from a Marvel perspective, from the company and how they're trying to adapt different properties that fit different niches, this year is kind of the first time they've really tackled teens. In their official adaptation through Marvel Studios. It's mostly been about 40-year-olds, that we've seen, or Captain America's in his 20s. But regardless, we got Spider-Man, and that was pretty good. But here we really get to delve and actually make a story for what a lot of people consider to be the target demographic for something like this. But even also beyond that, what I'm interested in is there's a couple of things that I think would have been difficult to do in Runaways if you had done it right away. Marvel, you said yourself, they changed a very supernatural idea of this religion into something that may be more alien in nature. The Marvel Cinematic Universe is kind of scientific. Even their magic is explained as sort of channeling energies between dimensions and things. There was a lot of material here that would have been difficult to do early on before you would introduce Doctor Strange. It would have been difficult to do the Wizarding family without raising a lot of questions that people would be like, how? Huh? We have it now. Even something like Molly, they don't have, in the comics, Molly was a mutant. And they don't have mutants in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So maybe she's an Inhuman. They can play with that if they want to, or not. They can do something entirely different.
I don't think they really want to do anything else with the Inhumans at this point. Just a hunch.
Though I am saying, if Molly's parents are dead, they used to run with Emma Frost, and I'm just saying, if Marvel wants to redeem my favorite X-Men character, I'm just throwing that out there. I know. I know. That's a whole other thing.
Nice.
That's fan theory.
Yes.
But one of the things they did get right, the dinosaur.
Yes!
They brought in Gert's dino.
I was a little worried they'd have to change that. I mean, it's a little TV CGI where it's kind of like, it's pretty good. We're not throwing money at it. It's not like the dinosaur, it's not like the dragons in Game of Thrones. But I buy it. And I think it's neat.
I like it.
I also like how they are taking their time in explaining what powers these kids have. Like they're sort of manifesting at their own rate, and they're kind of like, some of them are figuring it out and some of them aren't, and maybe we'll see. And like, again, if this were a movie, it would have to be just like, let's get on with it. They gotta get there because it's Act 3, they have to fight all the things,
I've heard some complaints about the show regarding its pacing, and maybe it's paced too slow. Like, it's called Runaways. They haven't run away yet. It's been 3 episodes. That doesn't necessarily bother me if I'm interested in the journey there. Like, it would be like saying The Wizard of Oz sucks because they don't meet the Wizard of Oz until the end of the movie.
And what a letdown he was.
Right? Like, that doesn't bother me. I think, and I've even heard some people complain that they're not like a team yet. They're a team at the end of the first episode. No, I'm not doing a straw man argument. I just want to say, I actually think that they're doing something that really, really works here. They've brought everyone together. They're not their finished personalities. Because in comic books, I think it's one of the reasons why the comic book moves so speedily. You have to get to the second act fast. And then most superhero stories never leave the second act. Everyone's just sort of in this state of perpetual business where they're dealing with their issues, but if Batman resolves all the psychological issues, the book ends, and it can only be right here. Here we can really let them grow and evolve and become the characters that we know, and I think they're doing it at a pretty tidy rate. I think we are seeing them interact and evolve and learn things and become people they didn't expect they would be yesterday.
And I think it's really important that we see their parents' influence on their lives, because these kids just found out our parents are in some crazy death cult. What is going on? And immediately, the idea to run away, I don't think is going to be forefront in everyone's mind. I think they're going to say, how do we tackle this? How do we, they have to come to these realizations. And they have to realize to what degree are their parents into this and for what reasons. And motivation.
Yeah, there needs to be like a danger for them that requires them to run away, and they have to get there and figure out what that is.
I like that they see their parents do something horrible, but they clearly love their parents enough that they want to investigate, but they also kind of want to give them the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
What if there is an okay explanation for this? What if it's not as bad as it looks?
And it's very, like, you look at Tina, Nico's mom, and then Victor, Chase's dad. Those are very, very obvious bad guys. Those are some very bad villain-esque characters. But Nico just doesn't say like, oh, I'm going to run away from mom. She's like, I'm going to take her staff and see what this is all about. Chase is really the only one who's kind of like, yo, dad's bad business. We want nothing to do with it.
But he loves his mother.
Yeah,
he
does.
His mother is a victim as well, and he doesn't want to see the bad in her.
Yeah, and he just doesn't know that his mom's having an affair.
It's very, very true.
But and also I think because we're dealing with teenage characters, they are themselves constantly in a developing process and figuring out their own personalities and figuring out who they are. I mean, the very reasons why these once tight childhood friends are now not speaking to each other is also a reason why these characters are going to continue to be interesting and awkward and trying to figure out how they fit together and maybe even getting stuck together in situations where they don't want to be with that person because they don't like that person. That's part of the sort of adolescent experience, and I think the show is going to give themselves the real estate to explore that if they want to.
I think so.
Yeah.
So it's good.
Yeah, I love it. I have to say, like, this might be one of my favorite Marvel television shows, to be very honest. It's fun. It's everything I love about comic books. It's enjoyable. Like, don't get me wrong, I love a lot of the Netflix stuff. It's very dark and gritty and really good, like, Marvel Max style stuff, which is their 18+. But Runaways is it's great. I love it.
Well, we need as I was kind of mentioning, I think we just need many different perspectives in order for the Marvel franchise, series, brand, whatever you want to call it, for it to stay relevant. And I think this is a really very nicely done version of it. I think this gives us something that we aren't seeing enough of, and it's giving it to us incredibly well. Like we've seen some stumbles in Marvel television. Iron Fist, Defenders, and here we've got something that's just and again on some level this is, I mean, I'm not going to call it brilliant yet. I really want to see how it evolves. But like you look at like a lot of the other shows that it kind of reminds you of, something like Roswell. And it's just sort of like, this is leaps and bounds beyond Roswell.
Yeah, no, I think as a teen show, as a Marvel show, as a hero show in general, they're strong out of the gate. We'll see where it goes, but I think so far so good.
And again, the comic is so nicely plotted.
Yeah.
That's the thing with a lot of these superhero adaptations is that they adapt the character and maybe the origin story, but beyond that, most of these stories don't really have a great plot that's being adapted, or very loosely so. Runaways has a fantastic structure, and it's going to get
Runaways
some
is
cool
also
stuff.
new enough that it's not like trenched in 40 to 50 years of mythos.
True.
So you do have some very distinct stories, and I highly recommend, if anyone is watching Runaways, go pick up the trades of the original series and up through the Joss Whedon's run. It's some of the best comic book reading I've had. I absolutely adore it.
There's a reason why when Marvel got started, this was originally one of their top priorities, because it's just that smartly conceived and the characters are that good. And I can't wait to see more of this.
It gives me a lot of hope for Cloak and Dagger.
Yeah,
Another
right? I
teenage
was a little
centric.
worried about Cloak and Dagger, but now I'm like, maybe this will be okay.
Well, we will see how Runaways plays out, and we'll be coming back with recaps of new episodes as they air on Hulu every week. So come back and see us.